Have you ever felt trapped in your own thoughts? Like your mind keeps circling the same negative experiences and worries over and over again. And no matter how hard you want to try to move on, you can't. This can be the exhausting cycle of depressive rumination, a mental loop that can pull you deeper into negativity, self doubt, and depression. It's not just about feeling down, it affects how you view yourself, how you view your relationships, and how you see the world around you. And while it may seem impossible to get out of or to break free, understanding why depressive rumination happens is key to taking back control of your thoughts and to move forward out of the depression. Now, rumination happens when your mind keeps replaying negative thoughts, past mistakes, or worries about the future. You end up analyzing negative events, going over every detail, and constantly asking yourself the what if questions. It's like being stuck in quicksand. The more you fight to try and get out, the deeper you sink. And these types of rumination thoughts can feel automatic, like they're the ones in control. And often the harder you try to break free from the rumination thoughts, the more stuck you feel, the more you tend to ruminate. And one of the hardest parts about rumination is how isolating it can feel. Even if you logically know that others deal with the same types of struggles that you're having, in that moment of rumination, it feels like you're alone in darkness. And this isolation, this feeling that you're the only one, just adds to the negativity. You may think to yourself things like, why can't I just stop? What's wrong with me? And it's this type of self criticism that can then strengthen the negative rumination cycle. So, for example, imagine I have a disagreement with a friend and I start to replay that disagreement over and over and over again, convincing myself that I've ruined that relationship. In reality, the situation may not be as bad as it feels, but the more I dwell on it, the worse it seems. And so many people try and distract themselves as a way of stopping rumination. They think that by staying busy or focusing on something else, they can stop this spiral of rumination. But the problem with distraction is that it's often just a temporary fix. You might immerse yourself in something like your work, or you might binge watch a TV show. But as soon as there's a lull, as soon as there's a break in those activities, those negative thoughts come right back. Distraction doesn't solve the underlying issue, it only covers it up for a moment. And sometimes trying to distract yourself can even make things worse, especially if you feel guilty for avoiding the real underlying problem. So imagine someone who tries to avoid thinking about a recent failure by working overtime. Might seem helpful on the surface, but those feelings of disappointment and failure and self-doubt, they're still there. They still simmer in the background. As soon as that person takes a break, those thoughts come rushing back in and possibly even stronger. And now that person's feeling even worse for not dealing with those negative thoughts earlier. And so this is why we simply can't outrun rumination. We might turn to temporary fixes, but eventually our minds will circle back to the very thing that we're trying to escape. And so it becomes a battle with our own thoughts. And the more we try and push away the negativity, the more it sticks. Rumination often leads to self blame. We pick apart our mistakes and we ask ourselves things like, why did I do that? Or how could I have been so stupid? This self criticism only fuels feelings of hopelessness and it makes us feel flawed or inadequate. We can often end up telling ourselves, I've messed up in the past, so why would the future be any different? This type of thinking distorts reality. Instead of seeing mistakes as opportunities to learn something or to grow, we view them as proof that we're not good enough. For example, if I don't get a promotion, I might start fixating on every mistake I've made at work. I ignore all of the positive feedback, all of the positive accomplishments that I've had. And so over time, this cycle makes it harder to see any possibility for change. The future feels like it's going to be more of the same disappointments. And that weight of hopelessness just grows and grows and grows. And stress and anxiety, they can make depressive rumination worse. When we're stressed, our minds tend to go into overdrive. Small worries, small inconveniences get blown out of proportion, and everything starts to feel overwhelming. When we're stressed, we often start to see things through a negative lens, a lens that makes everything seem harder and more insurmountable, more impossible to overcome. Our self esteem can take a hit as well. We begin to doubt our abilities, we doubt our worth, and even the possibility that things could improve. Even neutral situations might seem negative as we start to question ourselves. Did I say something wrong? Or why does this always happen to me? This negativity bias is stronger when we're already feeling stressed or anxious, and it can make it even harder for us to pull out of these negative spirals. So it's a lot of negativity there, but the positive in all of this is that you're not powerless against rumination. While it might feel like these negative thoughts can take control of you, there are things that you can do, there are steps that you can take to deal with rumination. And it's not about pretending that everything is fine when it's not. It's about recognizing that your thoughts are just thoughts. They're not facts. You can examine them and you can challenge how accurate they are. So, for example, if you find yourself thinking something like, I always mess up, ask yourself, is this really true? Can I think of any times where things didn't go wrong? This is the first step in cognitive restructuring, where you replace distorted thinking patterns with more balanced, realistic ones. And one practical way to break the rumination cycle is with what I call the three R's: to recognize, to reframe, and to replace. So let's start with recognize. The idea is to start by noticing when you're ruminating. Sometimes it's hard to catch ourselves because these thoughts feel like they're just a part of who we are. But that's not true. Start by paying attention to that inner dialogue in your mind and notice when it turns negative. That's the recognizing part. The reframe. Once you've recognized the negative thought, the idea is to challenge it. Is this thought completely true? Or are you seeing things through a distorted lens? For example, if you think, I'm a failure because I made a mistake at work, what you want to do is to ask yourself, is one mistake really proof that I'm a failure? What would I say to a friend who was feeling this way or thinking this thought? And the third step is to replace. Replace the negative thought with something more constructive. That doesn't mean forcing yourself to be overly positive. This is not the power of positive thinking. Instead, you want to find a balanced perspective. Instead of thinking something like, I'll never be able to do this, the idea is to try to think something like, this is hard, but I've faced challenges before and made it through. By using the three R's, you can start to break free from the rumination cycle and to approach your thoughts with a more balanced, realistic mindset. The goal is not to become overly optimistic or to deny reality. It's about being honest with yourself while also leaving room for hope and for growth. And over time, as you practice this, you develop a kinder, more compassionate relationship with yourself. When we stop treating our thoughts as absolute truths, what we can do is open ourselves up to self compassion. Instead of beating ourselves up for not being good enough, we start to see our mistakes as part of being human. as learning experiences and learning opportunities rather than proof of my inadequacy. Depressive rumination is exhausting, but it doesn't have to define you. By learning to spot the patterns, to question your thoughts, and to shift your perspective, what you can do is to loosen the grip of depressive rumination. While the world may stay the same, how you respond to it can change. And with patience and practice, you can develop and build a mindset that's not only more balanced, but also a lot kinder to yourself. And what this can do is to allow you to gain more control and move forward in your life with greater clarity and greater strength. And if you want to learn more about ways of challenging negative thinking patterns, I encourage you to check out this video. So that's all for today's video. As always, thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next one.